Good morning. It is Thursday morning and it is I.
It can only be Amanda's Mighty Mix Show.
Don't forget, I've got the brown car guy coming in today. He'll be in about 10:30. Talk about all things ULEZ.
So that was the amazing Amanda Weston, who reached out and invited me to join her on her radio show on Ridge Radio. So I went there and did that today. So here follows basically the podcast from that show that was recorded earlier today, talking about obviously all things ULEZ, but a few other things as well. Hope you enjoy it.
Brown car guy.
I've been talking to our very special guest, Shazad.
Hello.
Yes, hi. And you're the brown car guy.
That's right.
And you're here to talk all things ULEZ.
Yeah, well, I can talk about anything you like in terms of automotive or anything you like, but I think ULEZ is a bit of a hot topic right now, isn't it?
It is, yes. So give us a quick breakdown of who you are and what you are.
Who I am? Okay, well, I'm the brown car guy, not because I have a brown car.
Really?
No.
Oh, gosh.
My car is actually black. No, I'm very clearly the brown car guy because I'm brown and I'm a car guy. So that's the way people ask me, why brown car guy? And it's like, that's what it actually means. I've been a journalist, motoring journalist for over 33 years across the UK and the Middle East as well. And worked at all levels, from doing the Middle East edition of Car magazine, so dealing with supercars, hypercars, to having launched the Parker's Guides website here in the UK back in the year 2000, which was one of the most popular consumer websites guiding people how to buy cars and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, I've been at all extremes of automotive, digital, print, YouTube. At the moment, these days, I'm freelancing as a journalist, but I also have, as you can see, the Brown Car Guy channel, which is available on everything. So whilst I've got the opportunity to plug myself...
Plug it. Go for it.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it, just type in Brown Car Guy and you will find me.
Right. TikTok, you're not dancing on there, are you?
I try not to. I'm not a great dancer, admittedly. The thing is, there's a huge disconnect between my brain and my feet, because my brain thinks I can dance, but my feet know that I can't. And unfortunately, my brain gets carried away sometimes, so...
Love it. I'm going to have to go on there. I didn't realise, I've obviously seen you on the YouTube and on the Facebook. I haven't been on TikTok. I'll have to look for you on there. might see some of me singing on there for you.
All right, well, there you go. You have to approach each of these platforms in a different way.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you can use the same content across different platforms, and sometimes you do things that are a little bit different just for that particular platform. So
yeah.
I've done a few videos on TikTok with my daughter,
right.
So those are the ones where we do a little bit of comedy and a bit of dancing. So, but more her dancing than me. But, yeah.
I'm definitely going on there. So.
Yes.
ULEZ.
So ULEZ is the ultra-low emission zone, as we know.
Yes.
It was introduced in 2019 in central London. And last year was actually extended out to the North Circular and South Circular roads, which was a bit of a headache for a lot of people. But I guess we largely stomached it and moved on, didn't we?
We did, yes.
Then late last year, they started to talk about expanding it even further. And when I say they, I mean Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. Mm-hmm. And basically around November, they said that they were going ahead. Okay, how much time have we got? Well, not a lot, because it's happening in August of this year, or right at the end of August this year. And effectively what they're doing is they're expanding it out to pretty much the M25, to cover the entire Greater London area. So that's covering most of the boroughs, and in many areas that means effectively up to the M25. It's not entirely up to the M25, which of course in itself is going to cause a lot of confusion, but in most cases it is. And I think that this has become a big issue of discussion and debate, because considering the time and the era that we're in, and the fact that we are in a kind of a recession, I think the Bank of England has made clear that we are in a recession. Yeah. The fact that energy prices are absolutely rocketing. The fact that petrol prices have rocketed, the fact that in London itself, the mayor is going to increase our council tax, the fact that our energy prices, by the way, the bills are going to go up again in April, and the fact that just the public transport system alone, which is effectively what they're trying to say, they want to get us out of cars onto public transport, right?
Yeah.
But they're putting the prices of that up by 6%.
Gosh. We're We're not good in a good way.
No.
I'm trying to think of a nice word then.
No, yes, exactly. Yeah, we could use some juicy language right there, but probably best not to. But yeah, so I mean, I think that the key thing for a lot of people is suddenly the position that they find themselves in, where they're like, okay, well, all of a sudden, I was happily motoring along, and now all of a sudden, just to leave my house, I have to pay £12.50 every time I drive the car. I'm in the same position. I live in Kingsbury.
Yep.
In northwest London. It's adjacent to Wembley. And at the moment, I literally live on the correct side of the North Circular. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say daily driver because I don't drive it every day, but I have driven it here today. I actually run around in a 1989 classic BMW.
Nice.
Which, is, I call it a classic. Most people would say it's a classic. But according to the official categorization, it's not. Excuse me. Because you have to be 40 years or older for it to be a classic, for it to be registered. Mm-hmm. If it's older than 40 years, it's ULEZ exempt. But it's not older than 40 years, so therefore it's not ULEZ exempt.
Right.
And the way that you can be ULEZ exempt on a car is you need to be Euro 4 for petrol. Mm-hmm. So this is the emission standards that we're talking about. Euro 4 for petrol and Euro 6 for diesel.
Right.
And a lot of people have said to me, it's like, well, it doesn't make sense in terms of the CO2 emissions. You have to realize that it's not actually about CO2. It's about nitrogen dioxide. So it's about the NOx emissions. Right. Because those are the chemical, or those are the substances, if you like, that are considered to be harmful to air pollution, which causes illnesses in people, respiratory illnesses by and large. So these also concern particulates. So there's PM 2.5, PM10 particulates are let out into the air. So in one sense, you could say, well, okay, maybe this is actually a good thing in terms of, supposedly, allegedly, we're told that there's a public health emergency. Although, to be fair, a lot of people say the air is cleaner in London than it has been for 100 years. But anyway, that's a different thing. I've been doing my own little test, which I can share with you later, which is I've been screen grabbing the pollution levels in my area every day for the last around 10, 11 days.
Oh, right, yep.
And I think out of 11 days, only 2 have been moderate and everything else has been in green. And so it's been constantly green the whole way, and I do it at various different times of day. So I'm just doing a little exercise,
Yeah.
But anyway, so they say that this is for our benefit of our health.
Yeah.
And you go, well, okay, how much benefit is it actually going to have, considering the fact that you're going to create all this hardship for people? You're going to put people in a situation where they may be forced to buy a car or change their car, and the fact that you're going to spend £250 million to put in the infrastructure. Because obviously when you expand ULEZ, you need to put in the cameras and the road signage and all the rest of it.
Yep.
That's £250 million plus.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. In addition to that, the mayor's office or the London office, not the government, for example, the actual the London what are they called? The London Assembly. They are actually forking out for the Scrappage scheme. That's another £110 million on top of that. And we'll come to the Scrappage scheme because that's not actually available to everybody. Yeah. But that's a whole different story.
Hardly worth the paper it's written on.
That's a whole different story. Yeah. So then when you go, well, okay, all of this has to happen. So that's a huge amount of time, effort, investment, energy, and hardship that you're putting on people. Yeah. What's the actual benefit? And you look at the TfL, so this is Transport for London's own study, their own report into the impact of ULEZ. It's on the internet. Yeah. If anybody would like, contact me. I can give them a link. It's on my YouTube video. Yep. I have a YouTube video about it, and in the description I've put the link. It's publicly available. Mm-hmm. You can go and look at it. It's 200 pages. You don't have to look at the entire 200 pages, and by God, don't print them, as I initially started to do and realized, oh, no.
Too much.
So don't do that. You can just view it online, and you don't have to go to the tables at the end. If you just look through the first, I think it's 8 or 10 pages, where they summarize, the benefits. And if you go through that, they categorize each of the benefits that they're looking at. So whether it's environmental, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's traffic, whatever it is. And then they give you, in another column, they tell you what the benefit is. And virtually in every single category or every single row, it says benefit, moderate, negligible, or negative. So if you look at the whole thing, if you look at it all together, it's largely moderate to negative.
Yeah.
Actually negative. I mean, it's not even like in some places where you say, okay, moderate. No, in some areas, negative. They clearly recognize that it is going to have a negative impact on the communities in that area.
Wow.
So when you look at TfL's own report and you go, well, your own report says that there really isn't actually any benefit to doing this.
Yeah.
How can you justify it?
Yeah.
So should we move on to the argument that Sadiq Khan makes then?
Yes.
So
Yes.
he basically, if you ask him about this, he will say, well, I'm saving 4,000 lives a year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, where are these 4,000 lives? Who are these
Yeah.
people that are tragically dying? And of
Yeah.
course it is tragic. I mean, any death is a
Yes.
tragedy. You know, we absolutely accept that. And if that is the case, then okay, we need to look at that, right? It's interesting, by the way, just a few statistics to throw at you. 6,000 people a year get killed at accidents in the home. So let's just put that.
Okay.
That happens in the UK. So let's just put that into context. But okay,
Right.
but 4,000 is a big number, and
Yes.
that's pretty bad. So I looked at where does that come from. It comes from an Imperial College report. This is the report that he refers to. And in this report, they look at, or they kind of extrapolate and see what the effect is of toxic air pollution that has an effect on people's illnesses, respiratory illnesses, lung cancer, etc. And they say basically, if we were to reduce our air pollution to this level, we can extend people's lives by 5 months, 5 to 6 months.
Right.
Okay. So what they then do is they look at, so they take like a sample, say from the year 2013 is what they've used, and they said if we take these people from 2013, you're basically adding those 5 months together and working out that equates to 4,000 lives. So it's not actually 4,000 lives.
Yeah.
It's basically 4,000 people that are going to get 5 months extra at the end of their life, which if you look at the average lifespan in the UK, which is 81 years, you're talking about in 2093, they're going to have an extra 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, it's a big number. It's a scary number.
Yeah.
But it's largely, I would say, slightly a spurious number.
Yeah.
Because it's a number that's been extrapolated and estimated.
Yes.
And also, most recently, somebody put in a Freedom of Information Act request to the Office of National Statistics, asking them how many deaths are recorded due to pollution from cars.
Yeah.
And they clearly said that, well, actually, we don't record deaths from pollution from cars, from road transport. That doesn't happen.
Oh.
But we do have one death registered in the UK, which is really sad. And,
Yes.
our heart goes out to the family of that person.
Yeah.
But we only have one death that is officially recorded as being directly from air pollution. And air pollution, of course, can be a number of factors, not just road transport.
Yeah.
But obviously road transport has an impact. One death is what they registered from 2001 to 2021.
Yeah.
One death.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was quite a well-known case as well.
Indeed, yes, and like I said, our heart goes out to the family.
Definitely.
I mean, it's a tragic thing, but you have to put these things into context.
Yeah,
we're talking about one death in a city with a population of 9 million people.
Yeah, but we've had an email from Gillian Davis, and she does mention that further down, and she said, but there was other like health issues as well.
Yeah,
so it wasn't purely from that.
Well, I mean, this is the argument. It's like, well, I think that Bromley is making this argument at the moment, where they've said that, the number of deaths are higher in Bromley because of air pollution. And they say, well, actually, we have a lot of people that have come from outside of Bromley to live here. Yeah. We have a lot of people that have moved into care homes, and they may have been, exposed to toxic pollution in other parts of the country, or for other reasons, or from their work, from their jobs. For example, say if you work on the London Underground. So one of the recent studies, I think it was King's College study, found that the PM 2.5, PM 2.5, PM10 particulates. These are the ones that are dangerous to you. These are the ones that are actually dangerous to your health. And they found that in the London Underground, the levels of particulate levels is 15 times higher than what it would be on London's busiest road, which is Oxford Street.
Crikey. So you're better off driving. Oh my gosh.
You could argue it's like, you don't spend all day on the underground. Yeah. However, that's 15 times. So that's an intensity of a dose that you're getting on the underground. Yeah. And the underground, of course, hasn't been cleaned up properly, I should imagine, for 100 years, I guess, isn't it? Who else knows what else is down there in terms of contamination, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Gosh, that's quite scary. I mean, I only do it maybe
well, even now I've stopped using the tube, but it was just once a month. I now get the train and the bus when I go up London.
Well, I mean, anybody who uses the tube or the underground to commute, you can. I mean, I don't use the tube these days. I work from home mostly.
Yeah.
But I use it whenever I go into London because, I'm as much as I am a car guy, I live in Kingsbury. In 20 minutes on the Jubilee line, I'm into London. Why should I drive? I never drive into London. I actually don't disagree with ULEZ and congestion charging in central London. I actually don't disagree with it. Yeah. Because I think it makes sense. I think it's good to clean up the air in central London. It's very congested. But also the connectivity in central London is brilliant. Yeah. I grew up in Islington. So I know how, you can be anywhere to anywhere within 20 minutes on a bus or a tube. It's easy, So why... So you don't need cars. That's fine. Yeah. But I used to commute in my earlier days of working in London, and I remember, you come home and forgive me if people don't like to hear the sound of this, but when you come home and you blow your nose, you can see, right? Yeah. You can see the difference.
It's black, isn't it?
Yeah, it is completely black.
Yeah.
So just from that you go, well, okay, that's from the London Underground.
Yeah.
And that can't be good for you, right?
No. Wow. Yeah, it's just...
I mean, I've just met you, and it's lovely to meet you, and you tell me that you drive a bus.
Yes.
And you yourself, you are exposed to the fact that where you need to go and how that's going to affect people, how that's going to affect children and parents bringing their kids to school. Yeah. For a lot of people, all of a sudden, it's something that, maybe they had thought would not happen so quickly. Here's another thing. Then the estimated number of cars in the outer London area that are actually going to be impacted by this, it's a small amount. It's less than 200,000 vehicles, right?
Right.
London itself has a car population, or a vehicle population, if you like, of 2.5 million. Right. So within the context of 2.5 million, 200,000 is a small number. But of course, those 200,000 are belonging to people that generally maybe cannot afford a newer car.
Yeah.
That's why they have those cars. I mean, all of us would like to have a newer car, right?
Oh, yeah.
Apart from an idiot like me who drives a classic, right? But most people would like to have a newer car. So if they could, you would assume that they would have already bought a new car.
Well, yeah.
But they can't. They have the classic car. And again, I feel particularly, so for example, I have a neighbor, and they bought their car, I think, just under 2 years ago. They bought a Honda CR-V, family car. It's a small family. And they hardly use it. Most of the time it's parked in the car park. But for the school trip, for the shopping trip, maybe the weekend away or something, that's when they use it, right? They bought a diesel, right? And because it's a pre-2015 diesel, it's not compliant. Perfectly good car, modern car, safe, reliable, practical, not used that much. But now all of a sudden he's to go, what am I going to do about this now?
Yeah. I don't quite understand where, if the car was before a certain year, I would have thought that newer cars were better.
In terms of emissions?
Yeah.
Well, I think that with the diesel, it's 2015 onwards. So in terms of how that translates for Euro 6 diesel and Euro 4 petrol, for Euro 4 petrol, it's generally cars after 2005.
Yeah.
For Euro 6 diesel, it's generally cars after, 2015.
Right.
The diesel thing is a little bit stricter. So generally, it's very rare that you'll find cars before 2015 that will comply.
Right.
So basically, 2015 is pretty much the cutoff for that.
Right, okay.
With petrol cars, you do find earlier cars that do comply, actually.
Right, okay.
Some of them may be listed on the ULEZ checker, and for ULEZ checking, I would urge people to go to the TfL website. Don't go to any other website.
Right.
Because I've heard people getting mixed results and incorrect results.
Yes, I've read a lot of that as well. Today it's okay, tomorrow it's not. I've heard
So just go directly to the tfl.gov website.
Right.
There's a ULEZ checker on there, and use that one.
Right.
Check if you've got an older car than 2005 petrol. Do that first to see if it's compliant. It might be. A lot of older German cars actually are.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, and in some cases, they might be compliant, but they might not be on the system.
Right.
So I think you've heard about this as well.
I have as well, yes.
And basically in that particular case, if you suspect that might be the case, and this is where you're generally on a newer car, on a 2000s car, then you can talk to the manufacturer, through the dealership obviously, and they can issue you a certificate.
Right.
Which you will then have to basically re-register your car
Right.
and to basically say that this is a ULEZ compliant car. Right. It's a long process. It's a tricky. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I got to be honest with you.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it could end up costing you money. So, for example, I know that Mercedes are charging £150 for that certificate, and the £150 is subject to the inquiry. So even if it's not ULEZ compliant, you still get charged £150. So it's a little bit of a gamble there.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a gamble that you'll have to take.
Crikey.
The news doesn't get any better.
It doesn't, does it? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a total minefield out there because these people, they go on Facebook and say, "Oh, you can do this," but then they don't actually expand on.
I think that people are. I like to think that people are generally good, right? And people are trying to be helpful.
Yes.
And people are trying to give you solutions and ideas.
Yes.
And people have said that to me. It's like, you can get your car converted. I'm like, I'm not. Mine is a classic car that's completely stock and original. I do not want to tamper with the car at all.
No.
If I have to sell it, then I will have to sell it.
Yeah.
But I will sell it as an original classic. You see. But people say, you could get it. I mean, you could ultimately. You can. A lot of older cars, pre-80s cars. You can actually get them converted to electric. Do you want to do that? And don't forget, that's a cost of nearly 40 grand to do that.
Wow.
Yeah. But it does mean that you'll be able to drive it forever, I suppose,
Yeah, but would the bodywork keep together that long?
Yeah, that's a different thing. Older cars tend to rust away, So I have to keep an eye on mine as well. That's true. Especially we've got, older 80s cars, but 70s and 80s. But the point is that there are solutions out there, and I know that people post on Facebook, and they're trying to be helpful, but you have to do your own research.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And as much as you can. I mean, people can contact experts such as myself, and, we can try and help. But ultimately, if there's specific things that you need to know, then you're better off checking with a mechanic, checking with a dealer, getting that certificate. And if there's ultimately a doubt. So, for example, if you're in a position right now, and I think, unfortunately, AutoTrader have taken this off. But until recently, AutoTrader, when you did a search for a car, there was a selection for ULEZ.
Oh, right.
So you could select cars. You could ask for it to only return cars that were ULEZ compliant. I haven't checked, but somebody said to me that they've taken that off now. I think maybe, again, because of all the confusion that's out there.
Yeah.
So that's not helpful right now. But it puts the onus on the buyer or the owner to have to do their own research and to double check. But I would start, first of all, always by going onto the TFL.gov checker and check there first.
Yeah, okay, so that's where to start. How do you keep all this information in your head?
I don't know, really, because normally my brain doesn't have the capacity, quite honestly.
It's got a lot in there.
I normally have a terrible memory. I can't remember names or places or anything. To be honest, I've been doing a lot of content on ULEZ recently.
Yeah.
I did actually cover ULEZ a year ago when it was first mooted, and that video did really well. And then when it happened, I put up an announcement that it's happening, and that did extremely well.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like people are expecting me to do constant updates on ULEZ, which I'm happy to do because, like I said, it affects me as well personally.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of research in the area. I've been looking into a lot of the issues around ULEZ and a lot of the repercussions and implications of ULEZ. But also I feel that it's my responsibility as a content creator and automotive journalist to help people in this situation, which I know is causing a lot of hardship, for a lot of people.
Oh, it is. Sort of... My mum has carers, so if I ever need to go down there, I'd need to pay to go see her, and then sometimes I have to stop overnight.
Yeah.
Then I'd have to pay to come back home again as well. And then obviously all her carers, they go from place to place. They'll all need to pay.
That's right. This actually was highlighted, I think, by my memory ain't that great, as you can now tell. But the head of that department actually, I think, recently did highlight that very fact that this was going to impact a lot of carers. And, it's understandable. A lot of carers will be driving older diesel cars.
Yeah.
Because, they don't get paid that much, so that's what they can afford. Yeah. And B, because diesel obviously would give them better mileage, so they would go for the diesel option. But many of those cars would be pre-2015 diesel cars, and they suddenly find themselves in a situation where they're paying £12.50 a day, which, sadly, it's a big chunk out of their salary.
Very big, very big. So they don't get paid best, do they?
Yeah. So I think that, these kind of things... It's with all of these things is that, but the best intentions, these things are introduced, but the implications, the far-reaching implications or consequences on real people with real-world lives and real-world jobs and real-world situations is not always taken into consideration.
And I think this is what's getting people's backs up as
Yeah.
much, because he isn't listening.
Yeah.
He's just put it in. I mean, there's been protests
Yeah.
but he's getting them cancelled. We don't know why.
Well, I went to a protest on, I think it was the 28th of last month.
Yeah.
There's another one apparently happening. That was in Trafalgar Square.
Yep.
Talked to a lot of people there. That video is on my channel.
Yep.
Again, another
Watched
plug.
it.
Another
I
plug.
love the coffin. I love the coffin.
Yeah, the coffin was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was, so for those people who are wondering, what are we talking about? There was a guy literally walking around with a coffin.
Yeah.
Making a statement, obviously.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people there with some real stories. I
Yes.
spoke to a lot of people there with some genuine concerns, real stories of hardship and how it was going to impact them. I spoke to a lady, I think she was, 86 or something? She was 86, and she was still driving, which was wonderful,
Yeah.
And she was like, I have an old car, I drive, and I go around. It's like, this is going to impact me. It's already impacted my husband because the carers are going to have trouble coming to see him.
Yeah.
And she wants to be mobile. She wants to be self-sufficient. She doesn't want to have to get rid of her old car, and suddenly now she's housebound. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we robbing people of independence? When
Yeah.
people have the ability to get around and do stuff,
Yeah.
why don't we encourage that rather than going, oh, no, we're just going to take the car away from you now? It's a little bit unfair, in my opinion. But we spoke to a lot of people there. It was a good protest. There is officially, I believe, a protest happening this weekend on Saturday in Bromley Town Centre.
Yeah,
Midday in the Market Square.
Yeah.
Opposite Five Guys, apparently.
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Okay, then.
So that's what I've heard. I might or might not go. I have to see.
Yeah.
And then there's another one taking place in Trafalgar Square, which I think is, actually, my memory is failing me now. So it's either 25th or 28th. So it's one of those dates. I think it's on a Saturday.
Yeah,
but I put it on my channel anyway, so you can check it out there.
Okay.
But and I think that there seems to be a groundswell of support for these things. I think a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork, and I think that we might see quite a lot of people at these events.
Yes, yeah. I think people are a bit worried when he keeps getting it or whoever keeps cancelling.
Yeah.
But
And
we need to just keep going.
Well, I think that, right now we're in a situation where every day we are having statements coming out from councils, such as Croydon Council, nearby to where we are, and Bromley and Harrow, for example, who are basically saying that, no, we're not accepting this.
Yeah, there's 5, isn't there, at the moment?
I think there's 8, actually.
Oh, has it gone up to 8?
I think it's as many as 8 that have either they are going to eject or they voiced an objection or,
Yeah.
But basically the momentum is gathering.
Yes.
You've got some very high-profile MPs as well.
Yeah.
Gareth Bacon and Ian Duncan Smith, I think.
Oh, right, yeah.
Very high-profile MPs are also quite vociferous.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
a lot of these people, I think that understandably they are saying to the mayor that, at the very least you need to delay this.
Yeah.
Because you haven't given people time to adapt to it.
No. And a proper consultation, and let's see what the consultations say.
Oh, well, come on, don't even go there. Don't even go there. I mean, wow, you've brought that up. Oh, my God. You are opening a can of worms here.
Well, should we play a record?
Let's
Let
do
you
that.
rest your voice,
Let's
and then
do
you can fight back with your consult. How about a bit of the Time Lords and Doctor in the TARDIS?
Oh, yes, I like Doctor Who. Tom Baker was my favourite.
Ah, right, yeah. I didn't watch it. When that music used to come on, I used to be behind the scenes.
Oh, really?
I was one of those scaredy cats.
Excellent.
And a song that used to get me was the Osmonds' Crazy Horses.
Oh, yeah. That's
oh,
good.
my God, if that come on.
When it starts, when that revs up, that's like, whoa. Great driving song.
Yes. And that was, what was that? That was Time Lords and Doctor in the TARDIS.
I love Doctor Who. I've always been a big fan of Doctor Who. But Tom Baker's always been my favourite Doctor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But David Tennant I thought was very good. And he's coming back.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's coming back for 3 episodes this year. I'm very excited by that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm a big science fiction fan as well.
Oh, right, yeah. I like Star Trek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people who have seen my videos will have seen that. In fact, I've got it on my coat. You can see it there. I always have a Star Trek badge with me.
Wow.
So, normally on my jackets, but I'm a huge Star Trek fan, definitely.
Ah, right. Right. I'm going to find a song for you later then.
Oh, yeah. Klingons on the starboard bow.
That's the one.
That's a classic.
Right.
So before we went into that song, you were asking me about the
I'm going to sit back and put my feet up. Off you go.
About the consultation process. And now, I don't know if many people will know, but there was actually a public consultation that took place leading up to the decision to go ahead with it, right?
Yeah.
And I was vociferous on it. I definitely made my views known, and I know a lot of people did as well. Now, what's happened is that it appears we've largely been ignored because that consultation process, if you factor in Greater London area, so the Central London area was separate, and then the Greater London area, up to 80% were adamant that they did not want ULEZ.
Wow.
So, in fact, the public has spoken and did say, we don't want ULEZ expansion.
Yeah.
But the mayor's office decided to go with it anyway. And there's been various things that have come out since then, which the the GLA Conservatives, they claim to have various documents and things that prove this. That the fact that those results were manipulated. Yeah. To an extent that some were excluded. Mm-hmm. And then also certain demographics were targeted so that the results would be skewed slightly. But the reality was that at the minimum 60% of people said they didn't want it, up to as high as 80% of people said they didn't want it. Yeah. So if we live in a democracy, which the last time I checked I thought we did. Yep, definitely. I know that the prime ministers keep changing and we don't seem to have a say in it. But anyway, apparently we live in a democracy. Then in that case, then the democratic system is failing us at the moment, it appears.
Definitely.
And people have maybe perhaps unkindly compared our beloved mayor to a dictator, and my response to that has been well, that's a little bit unkind on dictators, because I don't know of any dictators that don't allow you to drive your car. So.
Love it.
I hope I haven't opened another can of worms there.
Yeah, I'll be sacked.
Yeah, there you go. Well, go down in the blaze of glory.
Certainly. I'll just come above you on your YouTube channel.
Exactly. Hey, more the merrier. More the merrier. But clearly, I mean, it's having an impact on a lot of people, and I think I think that's the real tragedy of it that's being overlooked. And I think that when these stories start to emerge, I mean, I'm getting a lot of comments on my content that I'm putting across TikTok and Instagram, but particularly YouTube. I have to say the content is varied on YouTube. Some of it is dismissive. Some of it, I have to say, is downright racist, which to me is always very surprising, because I'm like, you come on a channel that's called Brown Car Guy and then you're being racist. It's like, well, I mean, and let's be clear, I mean, this has got nothing to do with race or religion. This is purely a political thing, right?
Just and then, do it for an idiot.
Exactly, I mean, we can go into a whole other, and maybe we will in a bit, but just to finish that thought, I also get a lot of people talking about the genuine hardship and problems that this is going to create for them. And my heart goes out to them, it really does, And then you have to look at, again, in my particular case, where people are like, you drive a classic car, you can afford to do this. Well, yeah, think about it. We pay a lot to own a classic car. We pay a lot to insure, drive it. I maintain mine to the highest possible standard. I end up spending a lot of money on that car, and also I'm already paying road tax on it. I just got an MOT done on it. I am paying through the nose already for the privilege of owning that car. Yeah. And then people think, oh, well, you can pay another 12. I was like, well, hang on. I'm paying a lot just for the privilege of owning this car. Yeah. Now I have to pay another £12.50 to drive it as well. Yeah. I think it's, you have to think, well, how is that good? Yeah. But then you also go, I mean, I went to a classic car event on Sunday, this last weekend, that was in the London area. It was in Feltham, near the airport. Oh, right, yeah. And it was a brilliant turnout, and most of the cars there were modern classics, which basically are not ULEZ compliant. And you think that suddenly you look at events like that. There's a brilliant event that happens here in Bromley. I've been to that last year. Beautiful. It's called the Bromley Pageant. It's happening again this year. I think they have well over a couple of thousand beautiful classics turn up to that thing. Wow. I mean, they could be affected by as much as 25 to 30% of the cars that turn up to those events would be affected. Yeah. Suddenly an event like that is in danger of not existing anymore. Imagine the loss that's having to our communities, our cultures, our economies, by losing not only events like that, but many of the businesses that support those events. We have classic car businesses in the M25 area that support the classic car community. What are they going to do? I went to see a company. I have a BMW E30, which is a 1980s 3 Series, and I found a company in Barking It was recommended to me, and they're called Just E30s. So plug for them as well, if you like. So basically,
plug away.
There you go. So basically, they only work on this model of car.
Oh right, yep.
So they're specialists, you know, and this is the only thing that they do. But they're based within that M25 area. So all of a sudden, it's like, well, how is it going to impact them and their business? You know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these things that just, and then you speak to a lot of traders. You speak to a lot of plumbers and tradesmen and people like that, electricians, and they're suddenly like, all of a sudden like, well, I can't go to certain clients now, you know, because I can't add that to their bill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's already too much for them, and then now I'm adding an additional bill to them.
Yeah.
It's completely unfair.
Yeah.
So
especially if it's over a few days as well, you know.
Imagine.
A week's worth of work.
Yeah. Imagine. You're charging £12.50 every day.
Yeah.
Just to drive your van there.
Yeah.
There's so many aspects of this that is so far-reaching. And then we can move to this the scrappage scheme.
Oh, yeah.
And personally, I hate scrappage schemes. Because the scrappage scheme is... So the last scrappage scheme, for example, and again, I have a video on my channel which you can check out, but I looked at the cars that we lost. We lost a lot of amazing older classic cars, many British cars as well. And all of a sudden you think, like, because what happens is that somebody comes around and says, I'll give you £2,000 for this car. It may be a project car, maybe a car that's been sitting on the drive. They're like, £2,000, let me just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then that car's gone, you know, to the great crusher in the sky. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, that car is now lost. I used to, when I moved abroad for between 2006 and 2019, before when I used to live here, I used to do this thing, there's a friend of mine, another motoring journalist, he coined the term bangonomics.
Oh, right.
Which is brilliant, because the concept of bangonomics was that you buy cars for only a few £100s, and then you can basically run them into the ground because they cost you nothing.
Oh, right.
So I used to do that a lot before. I used to buy cars off eBay and just run them. Usually I used to sell them back on eBay again. You could buy a really nice, decent car for £300, £400, something like that, £500 max, a really, really good car. When I came back from living abroad and I thought, let me do that again. I couldn't find those cars anymore. The good cars of that era were now way more expensive because there were fewer of them and they were now appreciating classics, or the others had all been killed off. So you can't find cars for that sort of money that are good, because scrappage schemes have basically destroyed those cars.
Yeah.
Now the scrappage scheme is kind of, it goes full circle, because if you say that to somebody that I'll give you £2,000 for your car, and the guy goes, okay, I'll scrap my car, the guy, the girl, whoever, scrap my car, I got £2,000. Now what do I do with the £2,000? Can I get a ULEZ compliant car for £2,000?
No.
I mean, technically you can. You can. It is possible.
Oh, you can?
You can. Oh. Yeah, there are. Like I said, many early petrol cars, you know, if you search carefully, you can.
Yeah.
But right now, imagine the demand for those cars. Imagine trying to find them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a van company, it was on the news a few weeks ago in London, and they said that basically we've run out of stock.
Oh.
Because we have ULEZ compliant vans, we do use vans, but we don't have the stock now. And anything that we do find, the markup is going to be higher because supply and demand, right? We just can't find them. So all of a sudden, you really altered the dynamics of the UK motor trade at the moment is already very skewed because of the pandemic. So since the pandemic, prices of new and used cars have rocketed.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. The average price of a used car, a typical used car, average price, pre-pandemic was £13,500.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's £18,000.
Yeah.
It's massive. It's a massive jump.
Yeah.
New car prices also have consistently gone up and up and up. And so if you look at it in that context, say, what is your £2,000 going to buy you? You go back to that family, that neighbor I was talking about. He's got the Honda CR-V. Lovely car, nice big, well, not big, but reasonable sized family SUV, right?
Yeah.
You give him £2,000, he's not going to get a car that's suitable for his family needs.
No. No.
It's just not. He's not going to find a car that's equivalent to that one. Not for £2,000. And in any case, he's not going to get the £2,000 because this is the other thing. The scrappage scheme is not available to everybody.
No, I know. I read that.
Yeah.
I was disgusted.
Yeah. So this notion that, oh, well, it's okay, I'll just get my car. No, because you either have to be on benefits or disability allowance or etc. You have to, basically, there's certain conditions that you have to meet before you get that. Some businesses and stuff will also get it, but again, there's parameters.
Yeah.
So if you're a business of 11 people, for example, if you're a business of 10 people, you can get a grant, I think, up to £5,000 or up to £9,000 for electric car. I might be wrong, but it's around those numbers. So you can get it if you're a business of up to 10 people. You employ up to 10 people. What if you employ 11 people? Do you have to sack somebody?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but you're on borderline, right? So, I know. It's
Sorry, I want a new
It's
car.
so sad. It's so sad. It's laughable, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's tragic.
yeah.
It's so tragic that you've got to laugh.
Yeah.
And
You shouldn't have to make decisions like that.
yeah.
You know, if you're doing something, you're keeping people in employment, you know, it then shouldn't be, you know, what do I do?
Yeah. You're being
Yeah.
forced into these decisions.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And you have no choice in the matter. For a lot of businesses, their vans or their commercial vehicles are their business. They are their business.
Yeah, yeah.
What if the van is converted? Okay, there's an allowance for that. For a lot of disabled people or people with special needs, again, they have vans and cars, things that are fitted or adapted for their needs. Again, they should go online immediately and check because they could be ULEZ exempt, or there is also, I think, an allowance up to 2027 for some of these cars. So don't panic. If you have a car that is, you know, for a disabled or a special needs person, do double check it online. If there is an issue, appeal. Don't just immediately assume that your car is not allowed. I think there's an exemption up to 2027 for some of these. If you want to choose, I think you get a bigger grant, because if it's converted van or vehicle that you're changing, I think the Scrappage scheme grant that you get is bigger.
Oh, right.
And in fact, if you convert to an electric, then you'll get, I think, even more. So you have to just double check these things.
But even then, everyone going to electric, you know, if we all went electric, where would we all plug in?
Yeah. More cans of worms to open now.
Yes.
Whoa, we're going for it. Well, let me start by saying one thing.
Yeah.
I am not anti-EV. I know a lot of my fellow petrol heads and people my communities that I mix in, they're like vehemently against electric cars.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those.
No, I'm not either.
No, because
but I just wonder where we're all going to plug in
it's
with the
practicalities.
price of electric
It's practicalities.
now.
You're being practical about it.
Yeah.
The way I see it is an electric car is just another offering. We have petrol, we have diesel, we have hybrid, now we have electric.
Yeah.
Basically, it's good. We have more choice.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And for some people, electric cars actually make a lot of sense. I always say to people, I say, look, and I've been reviewing a lot of electric cars in the last couple of years, and what I've figured out is that the perfect scenario for electric car ownership is that if you have somewhere where you can charge at home. So ideally, if you have a home with a driveway and you can get a charger installed at home, which will then take advantage of off-peak hours, which will be cheaper, and your mileage isn't that much, your day, because the average daily commute for most people is less than 20 miles, right?
Yeah.
So most people actually don't drive that much, and most electric cars will have a range of 100 to 150 miles anyway. And in the cities, you will find, this is something that I was very surprised to find, electric cars, when I've driven them previously, when I've tested them, when I test cars, I'll generally go out of town, find some nice roads and drive them.
Yeah.
You deplete the charge very, very quickly when you do that, you know, because you're driving them hard, you use up the energy very quickly.
Right.
So one day I had a Mini E, an electric version of a Mini, and we live in, like I said, in Kingsbury in northwest London, and we wanted to go over to, what's the big shopping centre over in Stratford? Westfield.
That's it.
So we wanted to go there, and I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if I'll have enough juice to get back. So we set off from home, and we got there. And when we got there, we parked, and I looked at it, and I'd hardly used any electricity. And I was like, what's going on here? This is incredible. Wow. But on the way back, I depleted the charge pretty quickly. Now, the differences in those two journeys was that on the way there, I was in traffic the whole time. So electric cars actually perform excellently in traffic, which is kind of an irony. But the more traffic you have, the better they are. Because all of that stop go is actually recharging the batteries as you're driving. So you find that actually you're recouping energy. You're hardly using any of the energy. So if your commute basically involves traffic day in, day out, an electric car is actually not a bad idea. It actually works really well for you.
Yeah, wouldn't do for me. I hate traffic.
Well, there you go. Exactly. So if you're trying to zip around avoiding traffic, then maybe not so much. Yeah. But still, in an urban environment, I think they're quite good. It's on the longer journeys that you have to worry. And one of the things that, as you've rightly pointed out, we have had, I think, a year of consistent growth in electric car sales in the UK. That growth has suddenly slowed down. Yeah. And it's slowed down for two reasons. One reason is, as you've rightly pointed out, energy prices. And what we have now found, and this is from an RAC report, that previously, and I've stood up in exhibitions and conference centers and told people the benefits of driving EVs, and I've said it's cheaper. It's always cheaper. It's always going to be cheaper. Okay, I have to put a little footnote now on there, because now it turns out, so typically you used to say that driving an EV typically on average would be 7 pence per mile.
Yep.
Driving an equivalent petrol car on average typically would be 15 pence per mile. Unfortunately, now with electricity prices as they are, we're talking about parity between the two. And in some cases, actually more for the electric car. And this, but however, I must underscore and say that is when you charge at public charges.
Right.
Public charges are more expensive.
Yeah.
This is why I said at the beginning, if you can charge at home, you're already in a better way. Immediately you are saving money if you can charge at home.
Yeah.
However, if you're doing a longer journey, then you've got no choice but to use public charges.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about public charges. Here's the second reason why car sales have slowed down, or EV sales have slowed down. The rate of new public charges is not keeping up with the pace of the sales of EVs. We don't have enough public charges.
Yeah.
And this is becoming a big issue now. We're supposed to have many, many more than we currently have.
Wasn't there a story over Christmas about, was it Telstar? Is it the cars? They was queuing up to charge.
So this is the issue. Tesla you're talking about. Yeah,
that's it.
So Teslas are often regarded by people as amongst the pioneers of EVs. They're very popular.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan myself, but I mean, a lot of loyal people when it comes to Teslas, and they I have to say that they are responsible for making electric cars sexy, glamorous, exciting. The showroom appeal of those cars is amazing, and I think that Tesla is to be credited for what they've done in making those and popularizing the electric car. But I always said that as soon as the regular manufacturers started to get serious about electric cars, Tesla would suffer, because manufacturers know how to make cars. Yeah. And sure enough, now, literally every manufacturer has some electric offering in their range. Most of them do. I would say 90% of them do. So you would check those out for us. And yes, we did have some, we did have some issues with Tesla where... And Teslas obviously have their own charging network, which apparently now has been opened up to other cars, but previously it was only available to Tesla. But yes, you do get overcrowding, because a lot of Teslas have been sold. The Model 3 is one of the best-selling electric vehicles in Europe. There's a Tesla Model 3. And suddenly if you have all of those turning up at a charger, then you're going to have long queues there. And don't forget that you're talking about plugging the car in and then waiting at least half an hour to get it up to 80%. And when I say 80%, people are saying, why not 100%? Because in fact, the best way to use an electric vehicle is only charge it to 80%. It's something that I didn't realize until I started using them myself as well. So because it's the way that the battery charges, it charges very quickly to 80%, but that last 20%, it takes a long time. And by in addition to taking a long time, it's putting a greater strain on the battery. So it's actually wearing the battery out quicker. So the batteries will last 20 years, but you may reduce that to, say, 19 years if you continue to do that. If you charge at home, it's a different story, because the charger will automatically adjust it. But in most cases, you only want to charge to 80%, not necessarily 100%. And that 100% will take you another half an hour. So that last 20%. So it's just not worth doing it. So just charge. So you got to charge to 80%. Normally takes about half an hour on most electric cars. But if you're queuing up, and then you're charging, that's a good chunk out of your day.
Yes, definitely. So if you had all the money in the world and it was absolutely no problem for you, what would be your absolute dream car?
This is a whole different story. I would have to say I'm sticking with the classics, and because ever since I was young and I first saw the Roger Moore era James Bond and The Spy Who Loved Me driving this incredible futuristic white sports car, and then diving into the water, turning to his beautiful companion and saying, "Can you swim?" before he launches this thing off a pier. I was absolutely smitten by that thing. It looked like I was also, like I said, I'm also a science fiction fan. It just looked like a UFO to me. So it's a Lotus Esprit. I've always been in love with it. I'm still in love with it, and it's one of those bucket list things for me. That it's like it's one day I will have one. It's one of those things. Yeah. So that's the ultimate. Yeah. But in terms of modern cars, we're spoiled for choice right now. I mean, again, just going back to just withdrawing from ULEZ and looking at wider picture, I think cars now are better than they've ever been. They're safer, they're more reliable, they're better built, they've got more technology on them, they keep you safe. I drove a car recently from China. What is it called? It's actually, believe this or not, it's actually called Aura Funky Cat. That's the name of the car.
I love it.
You won't forget that now.
No.
Aura Funky Cat. That's the name. It's an EV. Believe it or not, you get in this car, it talks to you, right? And it's your friend, you know? And there's a camera.
I need one of these.
You need one of these. You need one of these in your life. You need an Aura Funky Cat in your life, right? And it's got a camera on the A-pillar that's looking at you the whole time. This camera is monitoring you.
Wow.
So not only is it looking at if you're tired, or it's looking at if you don't pay attention to the road, it will tell you.
Oh my God. And does it make small talk as well? Hello.
Apparently,
how's your day?
Well, apparently, I didn't have the car long enough to try all of these systems. But what they told me was that what they're aiming for, because it has a lot of buttons and everything, they're aiming to evolve it to a point where the driver will never have to use any buttons. You can literally just tell the car what you want it to do, and it will do it.
Wow.
Short of driving itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crikey. Yeah, that'll do for me. I really need a friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we sneak one into the country again?
Well, it's quite interesting that BMW recently showcased a concept car. I think it was called the BMW D. D is D-double-E. D.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the idea of that car, it was a small saloon, and it's got this changing bodywork paint thing. So it has graphics, and it can change color, and it can do all of these things. Wow. It's obviously an EV, but again, they had the same concept of the car being your friend. Yeah. And it's quite interesting because in the promotional video that they did, they suddenly had the appearance of, if people remember, a Knight Rider kit, the black Trans Am, the black talking Trans Am.
Yeah.
So they had David Hasselhoff and as Michael Knight. Suddenly in this, and I was like, why in a BMW video have you got a Pontiac Trans Am? What's this about? And I see what they were doing, because the Pontiac Trans Am was always, or the Knight Rider, or Kit as we knew it, was always billed as the car of the future. And I guess they were trying to equate the fact that this is the modern version of that, and the car is your friend, basically. So, we are heading into an area where we will have artificial intelligence in our cars that will be our friend.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Brilliant. Can't wait.
Can't wait for the sarcastic comments. Are you sure you're wearing that to work today, Shazad? Are you sure you had enough coffee today, Shazad? So that's what we ate last night, is it?
Brilliant.
Imagine if you're picking up a client. That's a bit embarrassing. Too much information.
You know what he did last night? I wouldn't sit anywhere near him.
Back seat is preferable. Oh my God. But yeah, it's a crazy time we live in. But yeah, I mean, technology is amazing.
Yes. I used to have a Nissan Skyline. 4-door. There was only 2 in the country.
Skylines are legends. I mean, well done having a Nissan Skyline. So you're a bona fide car girl. You got a Nissan Skyline.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I know, but
you're the Fast and Furious crowd right there.
I know. It was a 6-cylinder.
Wow.
And it was right-hand drive because it was made
Japanese import. Yeah. JDM.
Oh, I loved that. It was white. My husband actually, he was doing cars then, and someone said, can you pick this car up, take it away? And it was like green, white but green. And he cleaned it all up and it just went. And it was the best thing. I loved that car. But then it got stuck in reverse. And
oh no. That's it's always tragic when that happens.
Yeah, I know, but I loved this car. I was most upset.
Oh no.
But so there was only 2 in the country because all the rest are 2-door. This was the only 4-door.
Yeah, I know. Those are extremely rare. Yeah, they are actually extremely rare and highly collectible right now. So I wish you'd kept it.
Yes,
it's probably worth quite a bit of money now.
Yeah. Oh, I wish you'd just put a new engine in it for me, but he wouldn't. No, it's not worth the hassle. It's only about £100 worth of car.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Got some big scrapyard in the sky.
Oh no. And that's the tragedy of these things, is like, especially when you get the scrappage schemes and stuff. There's so many amazing cars. And I think the one thing that we fail to realize is that, the cars that we live with, the cars that we grow up with, they become part of the fabric of our history, right? Yeah. They're part, when you see a car today that you remember as a child, even if it was a rubbish car back then, you suddenly get all nostalgic and you go, whoa, cool, look at that. It's one that you see one of these an old Austin or something, an old Austin Allegro.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they weren't great cars, but now you see one today, you'd be like, wow, check that out. You know what I mean? And so the rarity value and the collectability of these cars is immense. But also, I just think that they provide joy. One of the things we haven't touched on, for example, is again, and the funny thing is, this actually happened in the video that I was filming. So sometimes I put a GoPro in the car and I film to the camera as I'm driving along.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was making this video announcing the fact that ULEZ was about to expand. And as I was doing this, and this does happen often, but it happened during this video, somebody pulled alongside me and he was like, whoa, mate, great car. He started having a chat with me whilst I'm filming this video. And I've actually left it in on the video.
Oh, nice.
But the point was that I was trying to make through that was that these cars, okay, my Classic provides me with joy, but it provides other people with joy as well.
Yeah.
Because people like to see these things.
Yeah.
It's something interesting to see. They get nostalgic. They start to reminisce. They just think, wow, cool. It's great to see one of these around.
Yeah.
And sadly, that might not happen soon.
Well, my first car was a Datsun 100A.
All right.
You don't see any of those.
No, exactly.
That's
And you look at these old Datsun 100s or 120Ys or all of these old, the old Bluebirds and stuff, and you think in some parts of the world, I mean, they're still running around. They're still really highly sought after. It's just that we've got rid of them all. That's the trouble, which is a bit of a shame, really.
Yeah. Tis. And the old Skoda, I had one of the original ones with the
engine in the back.
Yeah.
Those are brilliant. They were great rally cars.
Oh, yeah. I didn't rally in it. No. Honest mother.
Exactly, yeah. But the thing is, like, when you think that, oh, well, engine in the back, that can't be right. Yeah, but don't forget that the 911 always had the engine in the back as well. So you could say, I'm driving a poor man's 911, the Skoda is like a 911. There you go. So.
There must have been, I was looking out of my house the other week. It was on the school run because we've got school there, and some of them's parked up, so I'm guessing they just picked their kid up. And I was watching her putting stuff in the front under the bonnet. So I'm guessing that had the engine in the back.
Which car was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It was black, but it was shiny and looked new.
But don't forget that many electric vehicles also have what is now being popularly known as the frunk, which is the front trunk. It's a term that's come from America.
Right.
Because they don't have an engine.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think about it, an electric car, if you take an existing petrol or diesel car and then you convert it to electric, the motors are sitting at the axles.
Yeah.
And the batteries are sitting in the floor. So all of a sudden you've got that space, which you had where the engine was. That space is now free. So what some manufacturers are doing is converting that into a front boot, if you like. So frunk, as it's becoming popularly known,
Oh, well, that must have been what it was then, electric.
It could well be.
Yeah, so because it was just so new, and I thought, no, it's definitely not Skoda. No, I remember them.
No. And there aren't many rear engine cars. I mean, there's some mid-engine cars, but they normally tend to be sports cars. But it may well be that. It may be that
oh, right,
car,
okay. So you learn something new every day.
There you go.
So glad you came. That's put my mind at rest now. While she was putting her shopping on her engine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there are a few viral videos. I'm sure you'll find them online, but there are videos of people pulling up to petrol stations in a Tesla or an electric car and trying to find out where to put the petrol. Until somebody goes up to them and say, this is an electric car.
I love it.
I mean, you can sympathize, because it's easy to laugh at those people, but you can say if they turned up at an airport and they'd rented a car and they said, here's the car, and then they just drove without knowing, they drove off in it. And they go, oh, look, the needle's gone down. I don't know what the needle is, but it's gone down, so I better put some petrol in it.
Oh, dear.
It happens.
I'm going to compose myself. I'm going to play a record. I'm going to play this Star Trekking by The Firm.
Oh, awesome.
It's
I
got to
love
be
that
done.
song. Let's do it.
See, how many stations would you go to and get that played for you?
It's been a while since I've heard that, actually, but I absolutely love that. I love the animation that was on the video for that.
Oh, yes.
It was so funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it Potato Head and all this sort of stuff? That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. No, I've always been a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that we're diverging from the topic at hand at the moment. But Star Trek is experiencing something of a renaissance, you know, because now there's so much new Star Trek coming out right now, and it's all great, all of it. It's just fantastic, you know. I can't get enough of it. I'm just lapping up all of it. People are like, "What's your favorite?" I'm like, "All of it.
All of it.
I love it."
Picard was good. So
Picard is and there's a new one coming out.
Oh right.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out. Literally, I think within a week's time. The third and final series of Picard is coming out.
Oh, right.
And essentially pretty much the entire Next Generation crew is going to be in it.
Oh.
So they're all getting back together again. So we're going to see Worf, we're going to see Geordi, you know, we're going to see Dr. Crusher. Everybody's going to be in it. So I was like, whoa, I cannot wait. This is going to be epic.
Wesley Crusher, is he going to be it?
No, nobody cares about him. Oh no, were you a Wesley Crusher fan?
No. Just saying he was in the Big Bang.
I know, he is in the Big Bang, yeah. To be honest, he actually still is very actively involved in the Star Trek universe because he does a lot of these shows. What's it called? In the Ready Room. He does a show called In the Ready Room where he does all the behind the scenes interviews with all the people working on the series, the director to the actors to everything. Yeah. So he's still very, very much hands on. So yeah, he's very much there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did put an appearance.
Right,
he did appear in the second series of Picard, I think. He did have an appearance in that.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I watched the first series, so I need to catch up on that.
Second series was good. I think second series was actually even better than the first one. And the third one promises to be an absolute blast.
Oh, right. I need to get caught up then before it comes on. Yeah. Right, okay. Then it's a bit of a binge for me then.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's so much to binge. Like Strange New Worlds is the new one, which I
haven't seen that.
I'm absolutely hooked on that.
Oh, right. So what's that about?
So that follows the adventures of Captain Pike before Captain Kirk. There was an Enterprise, and there was Captain Pike, and there was Spock was on it, and Spock, so this is basically the adventures leading up to Kirk taking over the ship.
And what's that? Strange
New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. So it's part of the monologue that they have at the beginning of Star Trek to explore Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
So they've just taken that as the title for that one. So it's quite funny. And the great thing about it is that obviously, you know, it's not filmed like the original. It's filmed beautifully. I mean, it just looks incredible. But what they've had to do is they've had to keep some of the aesthetics of the original series. Oh, so it's a curious mix of future but 60s kind of retro aesthetics in it.
Those, was it... Trifles was
they got the trouble with tribbles. The tribbles they got. I think they have the tribbles in it.
They used to make me die when I saw that.
But you think back to when they created the phasers and the tricorder, and the tricorder was like a little leather pouch that they actually have that again, even though that doesn't really make any sense in the modern context. But they have it because that's what they had in the original series. Yeah. So I think that's wonderful. But to me, like Star Trek, I've always loved the philosophy of Star Trek. I've loved the concept of Star Trek. The idea, because unlike a lot of science fiction, inherently imagines a post-apocalyptic future, doesn't it? It imagines a future gone wrong. Yeah. Which is what we love to do. You know, we go, this is how bad it could get. This is what could happen. And Star Trek has always been the opposite. Star Trek has always tried to imagine a future gone right. Yeah. So it's gone like, this is how humanity has evolved. This is how we've learned to work together, to live together, to recognize our differences, but you know, to be better. You know, and this is how we've gone out into space, and this is how we've got rid of greed because we've got rid of money. You know, and I've always loved that philosophy of Star Trek. You know,
no, it's good.
Yeah, and especially for me, being the brown car guy, I'm like. No, I think it's great. Yeah, but they don't have any cars in Star Trek. That's the only problem. They got transporters.
That's true. Yeah, don't need a car. Oh, well, that would shut him up, wouldn't it? Go on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
what would he do for money then?
Let's just transport him into the future, see how he gets on there. Yeah. Mayor of London in the 23rd century, see how you get your ULEZ charges then. People just beaming around all over the place. £12.50 to beam yourself. Yeah. From one place to another.
Yeah, he'd find a way.
You know what? I'd pay that. That's fine.
Oh dear.
No, that'd be quite cool. But it is interesting. I think that, you know, it's nice to try and imagine a good future or a hopeful and bright future for humanity, despite the circumstances that we currently find ourselves in.
Unless there was a fly in the transporter when you transport.
Oh yeah, now you're talking Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Right?
then you'd be in trouble.
That's a classic film, that is. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
The Fly.
Yeah, Fly, and then Fly 2.
Yeah. Transporter accidents, again, are a reoccurring trope in Star Trek fiction, aren't they? Every now and then you have something to do with, oh no, there's been a transporter accident.
Yes.
No,
brilliant.
Anyway, right. But it would solve our ULEZ problems.
It would. It definitely would. Yes. Right. So, what would you like to discuss now?
Well, I mean, like I said, ULEZ obviously is a big issue at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think that, one of the things that I'm going to be looking at is, because you mentioned earlier, is it still possible to get cars that are ULEZ compliant on a budget? And I'll be looking at that. So that's one of the things I'm going to be exploring.
Yeah.
But it is possible to find ways, to continue to be mobile, to get a car that you can afford to run for that money. You take, for example, something like, a small Hyundai or Kia hatchback from, say, the mid-2000s, 2005 or something like that. Those are generally all ULEZ compliant, and you could probably find one of those for about $2,000, less than $2,000. So cars like that are out there.
Yeah.
It's just the problem that we have at the moment is that the used market is in flux, because the values have gone up, supply is very, very short. So people are probably wondering, like, well, why is that? What's happened? Where have all the used cars gone? Well, they haven't gone anywhere. They're still here. But what happens is there's a turnover of cars. There's more people. So invariably, when you buy a new car, most people don't technically buy a new car. They take out a new car on finance, so on a PCP scheme, on a hire purchase or whatever.
Yeah.
And invariably what happens is you take it out on a 3-year or 5-year contract, most likely a 3-year contract. So at the end of 3 years, you go back and you go, right, I want to give it in and I want to get a new car, right? What happened was that during the pandemic, that happened, a lot of people went in and they said, right, we want a new car. And the manufacturers were A, either closed at the time, or B, the factories had stopped making cars, or C, they just didn't have any cars. So people were like, yeah, but I need out. I need out of this car. I need to get into another car. And they said, okay, well, we'll take that off your hand. You get a used car. So then the used car market started to get used up. And that demand sort of started to increase the price of the used car market. So this kind of vicious circle that happened just made things worse and worse and worse, because the new car supply didn't come back until several months afterwards. In fact, it's still not where it should be. If you go into a dealer today and you order a car, chances are you're going to be waiting 8 to 12 months for that car.
Yeah.
Unless they have a new car in stock or something like that, which if they do, they'll probably charge you a lot more for it. So it's a really difficult situation. Yeah. And it's another one of those things where the time scale of ULEZ is abhorrent, really, if you think about it, because it's not giving people enough time or chance to take stock of things, to figure out where they are, to figure out what they can afford or what they can do, or where they should go, what they should buy, or how they should buy it. It's not giving people that chance, because if they go out into the market, they'll find that there actually aren't enough cars. And even this notion that, everybody should buy an EV. Well, there aren't enough EVs. There aren't. They can't build them fast enough. There's only so much lithium that can be mined at any given point. One of the things that they are now looking at is that, and a lot of experts have looked into this, is that 2030, which in the UK is a cutoff point for petrol and diesel new car sales. So for those that don't know, in 2030, you will not be able to buy a new petrol or diesel car. You will only be able to buy an electric car or some hybrid cars. Brand new, that is. Used, yes, but brand new, no. So they will not be able to sell new petrol or diesel cars from 2030 onwards.
Crikey.
Yeah. So basically, you're heading into a scenario where manufacturers, car dealers, will be sitting there in 2030 going, I don't have any cars to sell. The reason being is because a lot of experts have looked at lithium at the moment, which is the chief component of an electric car battery. And they say that we will probably experience a shortage. We're okay at the moment, but we'll experience a shortage in 2030.
That's not good, is it?
No, but it's inevitable with all of these things. If you try and, it's like putting all your eggs into one basket, which is what I fear that we're doing right now with electric cars.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that we've been down this road before, because we did the same thing with diesels.
Yeah.
Because I remember, as I mentioned earlier, I was the launch editor of the Parker's Guide website. Parker's Guide is a consumer car buying website. We used to advise people on pricing and stuff like that. Sitting in the office, we actually used to get a lot of phone calls from people, and a lot of people were switching to diesel at that time because there was a big push to try and get people to move to diesels.
Yeah.
I used to get calls all the time from people saying, "Oh, I want to buy diesel. What have you got at the moment? I've got this car." "Well, how far do you drive?" "No, I just drive to the station and back." "Why do you need a diesel?" "Well, because I've been told it's the right thing to do." It's not, it doesn't make any sense for you because you're going to be paying a lot more money and not actually getting the benefit of diesel because you're only driving to the station and back every day. There's no point. But a lot of people felt compelled because that was the narrative at that time. And today we have the narrative that EVs are the best way to go. And as I said earlier, I'm not against EVs, and I do think that in a particular set of circumstances, EVs are probably the ideal car for you.
Yeah.
But they're not for everybody.
No.
But the way that we're pushing everybody towards EVs, I fear that we might get back into that same scenario again where suddenly everybody's bought EVs, then they find they can't charge them, they can't go anywhere, and the dealers haven't got any to sell, and then we're sitting there in 10 years' time from now, and the government's going, about that thing about EVs, we made a mistake. What are we buying now? We're buying cold fusion nuclear cars now. That's it.
Right.
I don't know, whatever it's going to be. You know what I mean? It's like, so it'll be the next big thing, right? And it's suddenly like, EVs now, EVs now you have to pay ULEZ. What? You know what I mean? That will happen, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But get your plans in now.
Yeah. Well, you can't, can you? Because you can't plan for these things.
No.
And I think this is the other problem with what ULEZ has highlighted to us is that, if I had known, I only bought my car in March of last year.
Yeah.
Now, why did I buy my car? This is the other story. Now, the reason I bought a 1989 BMW 3 Series was because in the 90s I used to own one.
Yeah.
And I loved that car. I adored it. And I had to sell it because I was in financial circumstances. I was buying a place and I couldn't. I had to sell it. And I always regretted selling it. I was at the NEC in March last year covering an auction event. And there was this car that was so similar to the one that I used to own.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell in love with it, So I was like, cool. Next day it came up on auction, and silly stuff happened. And next thing I know,
You've got it.
I'm going there to pick it up. So it was like a love story rekindled in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But back in March, if I had known for sure that ULEZ was going to come in so quickly to my area, because at the time ULEZ was coming up to the North Circular, and I'm like, well, I'm okay, I'm fine, because I'm just on the outside of the North Circular, and actually the North Circular itself and South Circular you can use. It's just if you turn into London that it's a problem. So I thought, that's fine, I'll never drive into London. I don't drive into London anyway, so it's fine. But if I had known back then, then maybe I might not have bought it. Maybe I would have like, why do that to myself?
Yeah.
Why rekindle a love affair only to then have to cut it short again, which will be in August this year? So it doesn't make sense. So it's the idea of giving people enough time to plan and think ahead, but also the notion of, well, what's next? Where is this leading?
Yeah. Well, because my mum's like sort of in the wheelchair so much, and to take her out, I was taking her to hospital appointments. I couldn't get her wheelchair in the car I had, so I had to borrow the money. And this was only last year, and I brought the Skoda Roomster.
Right.
Lovely car. It's diesel, but she's going to be in where the new EL.
Well, what year is the Skoda?
Is it 05?
Ah.
Yeah.
And that was last year you bought it?
I bought last year, yeah.
So that exactly highlights what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, again, if you had known, or if you had been advised correctly at that time, you would not have done that, because now suddenly you've invested in that vehicle, which is the ideal vehicle for your scenario. Yeah. And now you're suddenly facing a situation where, like, well, what do I do with this now? Do I just have to pay the £12.50, every time you use it?
I know. And it's a lovely car, and, it drives well. It hasn't got all great big smoke coming out the back. I don't understand it.
There's the irony of diesels as well. It's like diesels are on a deathly decline right now. The sales have completely diminished. Manufacturers don't even offer them anymore in many ranges, and people have gone off them big time because the government's turned around and said, we told you to buy diesels. Yeah, now we're telling you not to buy diesels. But the whole irony of diesels is the fact that the latest model diesel engines are actually the cleanest they've ever been.
Oh, wow. And
the latest Euro 6, latest generation Euro 6, there's this thing where they actually clean the air. So there's filters in there that will absorb some of the particulates. So technically the air coming out is actually cleaner than the air going into those cars.
Yeah. Wow. That's like the buses, they have AdBlue in them. That cleans everything up,
exactly.
doesn't it? Yeah.
So I think, again, one of the aspects that we're overlooking here is to look at technology for solutions. Because if we go let's just ban everything, it's like, well, hang on, there are solutions out there. There are things that we can do. There are circumstances that we can explore. There's alternatives. I mean, again, the whole EV thing, the fact is that, well, what happens to all the petrol cars? Oh, petrol usage is bad. Okay, it's bad. But are people aware of the fact that there are such things as e-fuels, synthetic fuels, and synthetic fuels made from carbon extraction? Essentially, you're looking at a net zero fuel, because you're creating fuel by, when I say carbon extraction, I literally mean carbon extraction, like extracting carbon back out of the air.
Yeah.
So the carbon that we're putting into the air, we're extracting it back, converting it back into petrol, using it, then extracting it back out again.
Wow.
Net zero, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, there's all these technologies that we're just completely... Hydrogen, we've ignored that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult one because hydrogen, the infrastructure is very expensive and it hasn't entirely caught on. But it's still something that we should explore because out of a hydrogen-powered car, all you get out of the tailpipe is water.
Oh, right.
So it's like, wow, you get water. This is great.
Yeah.
I said, if I had known that when I lived in the desert, that would be brilliant. How many times I've gone out into the desert, forgotten to take bottles of water with me?
No.
It's all right, I'll just drink out of the tailpipe. It'll be fine.
You just don't put your lips too close to it.
Exactly. But there are alternatives that we need to look at, and I think that this is where we're being very short-sighted. We're just rushing headlong into let's everybody convert to EVs. It's like, well, now here's the other thing. If you want to get into it, it's like, and again, just praising this with saying I'm not anti-EV. I think they're fantastic vehicles, but the carbon footprint of an EV before you get it. So this is the production of the car and the delivery to you. Before you get it, is 26 tons. 26 tons of CO2 has been put out just to basically get the raw materials to make that car and to deliver it to you. So before you've turned the wheel, it's already put out 26 tons of CO2 emissions. Wow. A typical petrol car is at about 6 tons.
Oh, wow.
Same scenario. So if you are...
difference.
It's a big difference. But then multiply that. If you're saying to me that, for example, you take the UK, there's 40 million vehicles in the UK. If you say to me, right, we want to convert the entirety of that 40 million car park into EVs, 40 million times 26 tons of CO2. What are you doing to the environment?
It's a lot.
I know.
Oh.
So there are so many questions that need to be answered. And there's so many aspects of this that I don't think that we've fully thought through. And there's things like, is there enough lithium? What is the supply? What is the shipping? Vast majority of lithium at the moment, which is, again, the component that goes into EV batteries, is coming from Australia.
Oh, right, yeah.
Vast majority of it. So you go, well, if you're getting a car, an EV here, how does that work? Well, a lot of that lithium is actually being shipped from Australia to China, where it's then being refined and turned into batteries, which are then being shipped to car factories.
Oh.
So if you start to think of the logistics of that, you just go, hang on. That is a lot of damage we're doing to the environment just to have a new car. Isn't it better to just continue running our old car? Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? The annual footprint of running your existing car is about 4 tons. And for a classic, it's even less. For a classic, it's like 40,000 kilograms or whatever. That's it. Because the usage of classic cars is so rare. But the idea is like I've always said the most environmentally friendly car is an old one that just keeps going. Yeah. Because that's stuff that's already been extracted. It's already been used. It's already been made. So all the cost of that is just running it. Yeah. Until it dies, and until it literally dies, it cannot run anymore. And then you've got everything out of that. Yeah. And the average lifespan of a good car, well maintained, you're looking at 30, 40 years easily. So it's about putting these things into context, I think.
Definitely. Oh dear. Sad. Think about all those poor cars that go into the scrapyard in the sky.
It is tragic. Yeah. Maybe we need to have another car song to lift our spirits at this time.
Oh, how about a bit of madness driving in?
Oh yes, I love that one. That was good. Morris Minor, he had in that one in the video for that.
Driving. Oh, there we are. Yeah, we've got it.
That's a great one.
Well, we could have had Driving Home for Christmas, but I get into trouble for playing Christmas songs early.
Way early.
I love that.
I can picture the video in my head. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Madness, one of my favourite bands.
They are great.
Suggs.
Yeah. Must be love.
Oh, definitely. Oh dear. Right, so I've just found that. Anyone, 25th of February, 12 noon.
That's the protest in Trafalgar Square.
That's the Trafalgar one.
So there's two happening.
Yeah.
One happening, so just to remind everybody again, one happening this weekend on Saturday in Bromley.
Yep.
That's Market Square, Bromley Town Centre. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is in Trafalgar Square, and that's the one that you've just confirmed is on the 25th on Saturday.
Yep.
And both of these are from 12 noon,
yes.
So they're both from midday. I will stay in touch with the organisers. In fact, there's a couple of Facebook pages, Action Against ULEZ, where this stuff is being updated. So if people are on Facebook and they want to find out or get involved, they can go onto there, and that's where they should just log in and get involved in the conversation. I also will keep an eye on these things, and I am in touch with one or two of the organisers as well. So if there's any other events or anything happening, then I will certainly be putting out across all of my channels as well, so people can stay tuned to those as well. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of activity, and I think that it's if you had asked me at the end of last year, what are the chances that this ULEZ expansion is definitely going ahead, I would say it's probably 95% is definitely going ahead. Weird thing is, at this point, if you ask me, I would say I think we're looking at about 80% because of the fact that the councils have put their oar in.
Yeah.
So there's some high-profile MPs have really raised serious concerns, and the fact that the mayor has found to be, shall we say, polishing some of the statistics that have been put out. I think there's a fair case of, wait a minute, this is not quite justified. It clearly isn't justified.
No.
And at the very least, it should be postponed, if not stopped altogether.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people are now going to have to pay to go to Chessington.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. My son won't be happy.
But it's true though, isn't it? I mean, if we're laughing, but you raise a fair point, because as a family, if you go out, the cost of going to something like Chessington, the tickets, the multiply, the parking, and then the food, and then the rides, and then you're adding another £12.50 on top of that.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Stay at home.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Listen to Ridge Radio. That's it.
Yeah, of course. We have all different shows.
But wait for the Bollywood coming up next. That's great. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that's on a Monday.
Right. Okay, I'll tune into that one.
He's still in training at the moment.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, he will be coming. I'm sure it was on a Monday. I'll let you know for definite when that starts. I just typed into Facebook ULEZ, and there's actually a lot more different sites.
Yeah, there's two main groups. Like, there's one with a green top on it, one with a red top. Action Against ULEZ, and another one. Yeah, they're the two main ones, but there's lots. Including Bromley has one, and Croydon has one as well. So.
Yep, and Sutton has one, and I found out today Merton has one. Right. So, you've got your own individual ones and the big main ones.
Join them, get involved. Also, there's lots of petitions out there at the moment as well.
Yes.
Make sure you sign all of those.
Yes, all of those. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it says. Yeah. As long as it says stop, sign.
Yeah. We need to get the numbers up.
Yes.
To make the point that we are not happy. Yeah. We're not happy that we've been ignored for a start in the consultative process. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right, so go and plug your channel again.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, thanks very much for inviting me on your show. It's been a fantastic,
thank you for coming.
A real pleasure, and I've really enjoyed it. And thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to plug Brown Car Guy.
Yep.
And basically, it's very easy. You go onto TikTok, go onto Instagram, go onto Facebook, and of course, definitely go onto YouTube. Just type in Brown Car Guy. You will find me. I also have a website called browncarguy.com. Very easy. You cannot not find me.
I found you. And one last one, the TFL site to check your...
Yeah, it's tfl.gov. So just type in tfl.gov or just type in ULEZ checker TFL and it will take you to that website. Use that one to check for ULEZ. Don't use any others.
Right. Okay, well done. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Brown Car Guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free. but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.